Shocking message from Alcaraz before his match against Taylor Fritz. The Mercian tennis player faced the media ahead of the Six Kings Slam, the multi-million-dollar exhibition held in Saudi Arabia in which he shares the stage with Jannik Sinner and Novak Djokovic, among others. Carlos Alcaraz compares exhibitions with long tournaments. After resting properly and treating the grade 2 sprain in his left ankle sustained in the recent Tokyo tournament, Carlos Alcaraz returns to the courts for the multi-million-dollar exhibition in Saudi Arabia called Six Kings Slam, an event that pays $1.5 million to each player just for participating, with $6 million total for whoever wins the title, which last year went to Jannik Sinner, who defeated the Mercian in the grand final. While awaiting his debut in the Saudi tournament, which will be directly in the semifinals against the American Taylor Fritz at 18:30 Spanish time, the current world number 1 gave some words to the PA news agency, also collected by As and Marca in Spain. In them, Alcaraz defended himself from criticisms by those who consider it somewhat incoherent that he complains about the calendar while signing up for these exhibitions. The Spanish player asserted that this kind of event is far less demanding than official tournaments, which is why he sometimes opts for them to play more relaxed and without so much pressure. Regarding the state of his ankle, Alcaraz confessed that he still doesn't feel 100% in terms of mobility, but that won't prevent him from performing well in the tournament. Criticism for playing exhibitions. I understand them, but sometimes people don't understand our opinions either. When I see that many people complain about how we defend exhibitions, I don't understand them because it is not really mentally demanding compared with the long tournaments of 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks. That is really hard. Different and more relaxed format. It is a really different format. Playing exhibitions is different than doing so in official tournaments. There you have 15 or 16 consecutive days where you have to maintain a high and demanding level of concentration physically. Here we only enjoy 1 or 2 days playing tennis, and that's great. That's why sometimes we pick them instead of tournaments. The ankle. I would say I don't feel 100%. I don't feel completely confident to play demanding matches without tape. The doubts are there when I move on the court, but I think it has improved a lot. I hope to compete and perform well in the Six Kings Slam. His opponent at the Six Kings Slam seems closer than ever to compete with Carlos. Taylor Fritz, Alcaraz's opponent in the semifinals of the Six Kings Slam, says he feels closer than ever to the top players in the world. Carlos Alcaraz is world number 1 and US Open champion. He is having a brilliant 2025 season and his next challenge is the Six Kings Slam, where he enters directly into the semifinals. He will face the American Taylor Fritz, who feels closer than ever to his level of tennis. In an interview for Tennis 365 ahead of the match, Fritz talks about how he is trying to reach the best. Sinner and Alcaraz are 2 incredible players. They motivate me to keep improving and to become a better player so I can compete with them. When I played Carlos in the Laver Cup last year, he played super well and I felt I could do nothing. I felt I had no chance. This year, in the Laver Cup and in the final in Tokyo, I felt the level was much closer and I feel I have gotten a lot closer, Fritz explains. He has gone from less to more and now feels he can reach Carlos's level. If you look back to where I was mid-season when we finished on the clay courts, to be where I am now, I would have signed for it. I was having a hard year. I wasn't playing my best level, sometimes I got injured. The second half of the year was great. He believes that if he continues improving, he could win a Grand Slam soon. Big words considering the level Sinner and Alcaraz have shown in the last 2 years. I feel the Grand Slam can come at any moment. It's just a matter of things aligning over those 2 weeks. The level is there for me when I play my best tennis. I just need to sustain that level over 2 weeks. Fritz closes in the heart of the Six Kings Slam. The Six Kings Slam has begun, and it started confirming a controversy that was already in the air before rackets even hit the court. And the organizers could take serious measures for next year. Because spectators have already begun to complain, at least through social networks. Being the tournament that distributes the largest financial purse, $1.5 million per participant and nearly $6 million for the winner, the invited players go no matter what, even if they are physically compromised. At least, that is what Stefanos Tsitsipas and Daniil Medvedev have demonstrated. The former played against Jannik Sinner, and his presence on court lasted just over an hour. The Italian showed there is still a big gap today between them, and the spectacle on the court did not match what all the attendees expected. A 6-2, 6-3 gave the Transalpine the ticket to the semifinals, where he awaits the Serbian Novak Djokovic, who, surely, will also not show his best physical level after what we saw a few days ago in Shanghai. The second match, between Taylor Fritz and Daniil Medvedev, also made clear the strong financial interest the players have. Yes, those who complain about the ATP calendar but who, when there is such a monetary prize, everything is forgotten. The Russian lasted even less than the Greek. Specifically, he stayed on his feet on court for 59 minutes, the time it took the American to knock him out 6-3, 6-4. And now Fritz will face Carlos Alcaraz, who in his first training in the Arabian courts has already sported an unusual bandage. Jannik Sinner has started with everything in the Six Kings Slam of Saudi Arabia, destroying Stefanos Tsitsipas in 2 sets to meet Novak Djokovic in the semifinals of the most lucrative tennis event of the year. Jannik Sinner had been dominating the ATP for more than a year. In fact, in the last 4 Grand Slams before the arrival of the 2025 US Open he had won 3, and at Roland Garros he fell 1 point short after a legendary comeback by Carlos Alcaraz. However, during the US hardcourt swing this summer, everything changed. First, in Cincinnati, where an illness kept him out of the final, and then in New York, where, defending the title, in the decisive match an extraordinary Alcaraz denied him the crown. Although the reality is he had been uncomfortable for some time. That caused him to lose number 1, and although he returned by winning in Beijing, in Shanghai cramps sidelined him, which is how he arrived at the Six Kings Slam eager for revenge. In 2024 the Italian dominated in Arabia by winning 3 matches, especially in the final over Carlitos, which ultimately gave him $6 million, an enormous sum that anchored an already historical prize haul. For that reason, this year he aims to repeat, first for the financial amount, and second because it's a great opportunity for redemption against Alcaraz, provided both make it to the final. A hurricane over Stefanos Tsitsipas. So far, the world number 2 has started in the best way possible in Riyadh, beating a Stefanos Tsitsipas who is far from his best form and is playing this event due to Jack Draper's injury, who initially was part of the roster. The Athenian is also not free of problems, suffering from back issues and being very low in the rankings, so it seemed a good warm-up for Jannik. And that's how it went. Sinner won 6-2, 6-3 comfortably. He broke early in both sets and built from there. He will now face Novak Djokovic in a top-tier showdown, though the Serbian arrives physically drained from Shanghai, where he was visibly off. The candid mental explanation Sinner gives for his physical issues that led to cramps in Shanghai: "I collapsed." Jannik Sinner returns to competition in the second edition of the Six Kings Slam after withdrawing from Shanghai due to cramp-related physical issues. The Italian, defending the title in Saudi Arabia and with little chance to wrest number 1 from Alcaraz before year's end, admits that heat and humidity affected him in China and he collapsed, triggering his withdrawal. Despite having won 2 more Grand Slams in 2025, the Australian Open in January and Wimbledon in July, as well as the ATP 500 in Beijing, this season for the current number 2 has not been easy. The 3-month suspension that cut his season after reigning in Melbourne is compounded by several painful defeats to Carlos Alcaraz in Rome, Roland Garros, and the US Open, as well as the Cincinnati Masters 1000 final, where he couldn't finish due to general malaise. A setback that adds to his Shanghai retirement in the 3rd round against Talon Griekspoor due to cramps that prevented him from completing the match given the difficult local conditions, something Sinner recognizes hurt him psychologically. "The mistake was mine. The heat and humidity affected me and I collapsed. These things are learned, cramps can happen, and I was one of the many who suffered them," he commented ahead of the Six Kings Slam in statements collected by Punto de Break. Nonetheless, he feels ready in good physical and mental shape for the final stretch of the season. "I took 2 days off and then we went back to work. I feel good physically and mentally. The conditions were very harsh that week, but now everything is back to normal. I think it was psychological. I spoke with my team and from that point of view it wasn't perfect, but now all is well," the South Tyrolean said before beginning his title defense in Riyadh. Even though the chances of finishing at the very top of the ATP rankings are complicated, given that Carlos Alcaraz holds it firmly, it is Sinner's hope to end the season lifting both the ATP Finals and the Davis Cup, plus, if possible, triumphing in Vienna, the Paris Masters 1000 and ending 2025 on the highest note. Riyadh has become the epicenter of world sport, and Alcaraz arrives determined to shine. What stands out most is the impact his arrival has caused. Carlos Alcaraz is not only admired for his talent, but also for his charisma and contagious energy. Upon disembarking from the plane, fans surrounded him with applause while he greeted them warmly, taking selfies and signing autographs. The Mercian has already started training, focused on his great goal: reign in the Six Kings Slam 2025. His debut is this Thursday against the winner of the Taylor Fritz vs Alexander Zverev match, and he knows he cannot relax. After losing last year's final, he arrives with renewed motivation and confidence of someone who feels in his best physical and mental moment. Everyone suggests that Alcaraz not only wants to win, he wants to make history. His aggressive style, his smile, and his humility are already winning over the Saudis, who see him as the tournament's great idol. The packed tennis calendar is beginning to take its toll in October, 1 month before the close of the season. The 6 protagonists of the second edition of the Six Kings Slam in Riyadh arrive with different physical ailments. Jannik Sinner and Taylor Fritz, cramps, Novak Djokovic, shoulder and ankle, and Alexander Zverev, back, are all managing issues coming out of the Shanghai Masters. Stefanos Tsitsipas didn't even participate and withdrew from the whole Asian swing due to a leg injury. Carlos Alcaraz missed the Tokyo Open 500 due to the sprain he sustained on September 25 in his opening match against Sebastian Baez. Alcaraz returned to training last Friday in Murcia and did so very cautiously, with a bandage applied by his physiotherapist Juanjo Moreno. His last preparatory session was with the promising American Darwin Blanche.